Welcome to One Man's Tracks. The influence of this week's artists on popular music is undeniable. From the likes of Charlie XCX's music to Lord to countless others, Robyn Carlson has softly, quietly pushed the sound and emotion of popular music from her early teenage mainstream label debut to her independent releases. She's crafted some of the most pristine and palatable pop records of her time. Writing her first song at age 11, unfortunately about her parents' divorce, she would perform it a few years later at her school in front of a Swedish pop singer who was there doing a performance of her own. Blown away by the performance, she called her parents and immediately set up a date with the record company, getting her signed to a development deal with RCA Records at age 14. She's stated about the development deal that it's probably the worst thing you can do to an artist in their teenage years. It's not anyone's place to suggest how an artist should develop. They tried to craft her and shape her into something more commercially acceptable than, I guess, what she was willing to put out. Or I think in general it's just kind of a restrictive process and railroads you in a path of pop stardom that they think is going to just make them as much money as they can. Even through all the grooming, the pushing and the pulling from her label, the inspiration, her gorgeous singing, it all shines through on the determined debut album. Originally released in Sweden in 1995, it got its overseas release in 97. This is Robyn Is Here through BMG Records, Robyn's first album. Surrounded by a team of producers and writers, she puts forward a clean, crisp batch of melodious and heartfelt tracks that launched her to instant stardom. This platinum-selling success offered a slightly more funky, danceable alternative to the flatter, dreamy bubblegum pop that was dominating mainstreams. It's really just a peek into more to come in the future, but there's some awesome tracks on here. Let's jump right into the album. Starting out with the soulful opening number, Bumpy Ride. Even though it's a bumpy ride, keep your head above the waterline. There's some TLC-isms all over the place on this R&B groove with an incredibly slick chorus. Then In My Heart keeps the funk. It slows down a touch. This is the original song that she wrote about her parents' divorce. It is not quite as catchy as the first one, but it does do a better job highlighting her incredible vocals with some great soulful punctuations throughout. Then you've got something brighter, more playful. This album's first single, You've Got That Something. A track that feels straight out of a Jackson 5 record. Feel good, floaty, hooky, just classic. Do you know what it takes as a Backstreet vibe with a hammering synth line? The lyrics and presentation feel like a Fresh Britney or maybe a Spice Girls track. Maybe not the most positive of associations, but I feel like this song is super definitive of that late 90s, early 2000s pop sound. In My Heart pulls from the other side of the Jackson family. This one's a slower, bass-heavy, Janet-esque ballad about an on-again, off-again relationship. It's not my favorite, but once again, I'm impressed by Robyn's ability to pull me into almost any track as long as I give her a couple minutes to do so. There was a hurdle for the next big single, Show Me Love, that being that Robyn S., another artist with basically the same name, wrote a song with that exact same name, I believe in 93. It's a big hip house single that was a massive success at the time, and I think is still pretty catchy now. This song, however, it does feel a little guilty of a lot of those bubblegum, dreamy pop tropes that I was talking about earlier. It is this anthemic pop release that you can bathe in with bliss, or you can cringe and change the station. It's right on the line there. I think a number like that could be tough to follow if you want to be taken as seriously as Robyn does. And The follow-up, Just Another Girlfriend, does just that. It shows she's not going to tolerate any kind of mistreatment. She's opened herself up, she's expressed her vulnerabilities, and she's serious about being treated special and not being just another girlfriend on this soulful, sultry little song. She's not making any empty threats either. Don't Want You Back is her reclaiming her independence and proving her power. Just fantastic, inspirational. Don't miss out on this one. Laying out some lessons she thinks every man should know in a bit of a sassy, spicy way. It's Do You Really Want Me? Show Respect. And it might be the only track that doesn't really do it for me. It feels like a soulless Britney number. But it's followed by a track that maybe inspired the likes of Janelle Monáe. How brings back the groove and turns up the seduction way high. And then it's followed by the sexy Here We Go. It's got a 80s pop ballad feel that normally I think are a little bit corny, but this one progresses in a way that I can stomach. I think it has to do with the little ascending pre-chorus, Here we go. It reminds me a bit of a Bill Wirtz song. Then what might be my favorite track on the whole album, popping up right near the end, it's the self-aware, the endlessly danceable Robyn Is Here. She's gotta let you know she's here to provide a positive feeling to put you in that freaky mood. It's smooth, verbose, funky fresh, I dig it, baby. Closing out this popscapade with a gorgeous little a cappella piece titled I Wish. Just a spotlight on the beautiful voice we've grown to know and love. Just brilliant, powerful. She actually got a little bit too hot for American record companies to handle. The record label Jive tried to sign her in the States, but she refused, and eventually they would actually turn around and sign a young Britney Spears in her stead, proving that they too could build and grow a pop star of their own. Moving back to Sweden in '98 to focus on her more introspective second record, she went platinum in her own country, but she refused to omit a couple songs that had references to an abortion she had at the time, and her label wouldn't release it overseas, so her next album also didn't get an overseas release, and she would eventually sign with Jive Records, but a year after signing it got acquired by BMG, putting her exactly where she started. That and a meeting with the band The Knife led her to form an independent label, Konnichiwa Records, and start a new chapter in her musical career. Her eponymous debut album, Robyn, was released in 2005, and it really does mark a brand new, fresh start to an already pretty incredible career. In 2010, she released 3 EPs, and through the amalgamation of those 3 EPs, she would put together a pristine, a pop-defining album, Body Talk. I really can't say much that hasn't been said about that album, besides maybe it's a tad overrated. It's certainly an excellent pop record that sits firmly above this one, but it just got so much praise that, I don't know, I kind of feel a little overwhelmed. I'm personally a huge fan of her latest release, Honey, in 2018. As far as pop bangers go, it doesn't quite satisfy like this or Body Talk or Robyn, but as far as an album listening experience, it's incredibly smooth. The emotions are palpable. You get to sit with them, and just the flow and everything about it is just, I can't recommend it enough. I would love to see if you guys started here. You can maybe skip her couple of Swedish releases after this, but this one's definitely worth checking out to get a kind of baseline point of where she started out as a teenager, and then hit her self-titled Robyn and try Body Talk, and then get into Honey, because it's a fascinating evolution. She takes her time with her releases, and I'm just impressed. Coming out of a period of uncertainty and loss, there was a point where she wasn't even sure if she would release any more music, but I'm so happy she did, and I'm hopeful, and I don't think there's any reason to not be hopeful that Robyn will continue to pump out some incredible new music in some time in the future. I can't promise you it's going to be soon. She spaces out her releases quite a bit, but I'm looking forward to the next one, and I'm certainly going to hang on to this one and keep jamming to it until I can find more Robyn CDs. These albums have given me a valuable education and have solidified her legacy in my heart. A pop star that can still produce a hit album 25 years into her career is an incredible feat. I am inspired by Robyn. I was inspired to make this review. How has she inspired you? Let me know with a comment down below if you've ever seen Robyn live, or if listening to her music has gotten you through a tough time. While I've still got you, make sure you've left a like and you're subscribed to see next week's Teenage Superstars. I love making these secondhand reviews, and I'd love to see you there. Until then, I'll keep dancing on my own. I'm in the corner, watching you kiss her. Robyn is here, gotta let you know. Lend me your ears, can you hear my flow?